The Crethean War Council had spent 3 cycles analyzing human combat doctrines. Their predictive algorithms, refined over millennia of conquest, had never failed. Energy weapons, plasma rifles, neural disruptors, every species followed the same evolutionary path toward technological sophistication. The humans would be no different. Commander Zarthik reviewed the tactical display with satisfaction. His flagship hung in orbit above the human colony of New Montana, its weapons primed. Intelligence suggested the settlement housed fewer than 2,000 defenders. A simple pacification mission. Begin landing operations, he commanded. Parker crouched behind the wreckage of a transport shuttle, his hands shaking as he loaded rounds into an ancient shotgun. The mathematics professor had never fired a weapon outside of recreational shooting. At his uncle's ranch, now, as purple-skinned warriors in crystalline armor descended from the sky, he wondered if his Earth history hobby would actually prove useful. They're advancing information. Nancy's voice crackled through his earpiece. Just like you said they would. From her position atop the grain silo, Nancy tracked the alien troops through the scope of a hunting rifle. The Cretheans moved with mechanical precision, their energy shields flickering blue in the fading light. Beautiful, efficient, predictable. She smiled and reached for her grandfather's revolvers. The Crethean forward squad expected resistance. Their combat algorithms had predicted optimal human defensive positions, likely weapon signatures, probability matrices for every conceivable scenario. What they hadn't predicted was Nancy dropping from the silo's emergency ladder, twin revolvers already clearing leather. The first shot punched through squad leader Vextar's shield generator. Before it could fully calibrate, the kinetic projectile primitive, chemical-propelled lead simply ignored the energy barrier designed to deflect plasma. The second shot caught his communications officer in the thorax. Contact. Unconventional weaponry. Vextar's distress signal barely transmitted before Nancy's third and fourth shots found their marks. Parker watched in stunned silence as chaos erupted. The Cretheans' formation, so precise moments ago, fragmented as they scrambled to recalibrate shields for ballistic threats. Their return fire scorched the air where Nancy had been, but she was already moving, boots kicking up dust as she rolled behind a water trough. Parker, they're bunching up near the solar ray, Nancy shouted, reloading with practiced speed. Remember what we discussed? He did. Every military history book he'd devoured, every documentary about asymmetric warfare, it all crystallized in this moment. Advanced species became dependent on their technology. They forgot the fundamentals. Parker sprinted toward the colony's machine shop, where colonists had spent the last week following his increasingly frantic instructions. The Crethean's tactical AI tracked his movement, designated him a secondary threat. Primary threat remained the female with the primitive kinetic weapons. Nancy emptied both revolvers into the advancing aliens, each shot carefully placed. The Crethean's armor could withstand directed energy weapons designed to flashboil flesh. But against solid lead moving at supersonic speeds, the alloy crumpled like foil. Requesting orbital support, Zarthik hissed, watching his ground forces falter. This doesn't match any human combat profile in our database. His tactical officer's tendrils quivered with confusion. Commander, they're using chemical propellants, metallurgic projectiles. Our records indicate humans abandoned such weapons centuries ago in favor of. I can see what they're using. Zarthik slammed a limb against his command console. Recalculate their technological level. Now. But the algorithm couldn't recalculate what it was never programmed to expect. Humans who remembered their own history. Parker reached the machine shop and heaved open the doors. Inside, 24 colonists waited beside their creation's black powder cannons cobbled together from mining equipment, crossbows modified with compound pulley systems, even a reconstructed trebuchet built from the colony's spare construction materials. They're in range, Old Man Hendricks said, squinting at the approaching Cretheans. Just like your crazy plan said they'd be. Not crazy, Parker muttered, striking a match. Just historical. The first cannon roared, belching flame and smoke. A solid iron ball cast from melted door hinges and spare parts screamed through the air. At velocities the Crethean shields had no protocol for stopping. It crashed through their armored personnel carrier like the universe's angriest bowling ball. Nancy used the confusion to reload and advance. The Creathians' combat doctrine emphasized formation integrity, mutual support, overlapping fields of fire with energy weapons. They had no tactical framework for fighting an enemy who used terrain, who moved unpredictably, who employed weapons their shields were never designed to stop. Fall back to the landing zone. Vexstar ordered, but Nancy was already there, both revolvers tracking targets with unsettling calm. From orbit, Zarthuk watched his invasion collapse. The humans weren't fighting with the sophisticated weapons his intelligence had prepared for. They were fighting with museum pieces, antiques, weapons that belonged in historical archives. And they were winning. Withdraw all ground forces, he commanded, his voice hollow. Inform the conclave that our combat theories require revision. As the Creathian ships retreated into the blackness of space, Nancy holstered her revolvers and walked back toward the settlement. Parker emerged from the smoke of the machine shop, covered in soot and grinning like a madman. Think they'll come back? He asked. Nancy checked her revolvers, already planning modifications for next time. Maybe, but they'll think twice about underestimating humans who remember where they came from. Parker looked at the colonists emerging from cover, armed with everything from black powder rifles to recurve bows, and laughed. The most advanced species in the galaxy had lost 2 weapons that predated SPACEFLIGHT. Sometimes, he reflected, the old ways were the best ways, especially when the enemy had forgotten they existed.